The cannon card has gotten a hit speed buff in the last set of balance changes, and since then there has been a lot of people using it again, especially inside of mortar decks. In fact, there's actually 20 people inside of the top 200 last I checked using the cannon card, which means 10% of the top 200 is using it, which is quite a lot considering before it got the buff there was hardly anyone running it, which really goes to show how just one small hit speed buff can really make a card significantly better, and it does get a lot more value in a lot of situations. Now, this mortar deck actually has the Cannoneer in it, and the Cannoneer is better in some decks. Even though the Princess Tower is the best tower troop in my opinion, the Cannoneer is shining in quite a few, and the reason why the Cannoneer fits very well in this type of deck is because you have a lot of splash cards. You got the Skeleton King, you got the Skeleton Dragons, and the Bomber, and even the Mortar deals splash, and then arrows for baity cards as well, so you have enough to deal with swarms and bait that having the Cannoneer is more value in a lot of situations on defense, like if you're running into a lava deck, a giant deck, or it looks like in this case we're against Electro Giant, which the Cannoneer is really good against as well. Whereas if you run into a drill deck, because of all the splash you have, even though the drill is better against the Cannoneer, you're going to be able to deal with it fine with all the responses you have to it. This guy's going to go in for a bomber, and he's got a bowler as well. Two pretty good counters to the mortar, but because he got the bowler down on defense instead of right on the mortar, we're still able to force a pretty big response out of him and get a counter push going with these Skelly Drags. We force a Phoenix out of him, so even though we didn't get too much out of that, I feel like this is overall a pretty good situation for us, and we already have our evolved mortar ready to go, which of course applies a lot of pressure. I think we are going to go for it because if he decides to go in for an E-Giant or something in the opposite lane, we do have the cannon cart for it, which I do think is really good against the E-Giant, because when the cannon cart of course turns into the cannon, it's going to be basically a building, a secondary building you have against the Electro Giant besides just the mortar. So it's going to be really hard for him to break through, especially if we play well and our defense is on point. So we can go in for Skeleton Dragons here. He is going to go in for a bowler. I'm going to go for a miner on top of it, and because he just went in for a bar barrel, it could be pretty good to go in for a goblin gang potentially. He is going to get the king activated. I'm fine with that though. Let's see what he wants to do here. I think maybe we go in for a mortar opposite lane at this point because he's going for lightnings on them, and I don't want him to get the lightning chip on our tower because that's gonna get a lot of damage, especially if he cycles them in double and triple. So we want to be mindful about that, and I think switching lanes, especially when you're against a heavier deck, can be a pretty good play. So we'll go in for Skeleton King here. I think dual lane pressure is pretty solid, and we'll see what he does. He's going to go in for a bowler. Let's go for an Evo Bomber here and then go in for a miner. We'll get some pressure going. He might still need something for the Evo Bomber. Nah, the Phoenix probably will be enough. Let's see if he finally decides to go in. Yeah, he is finally going to go in for an E-Giant. He was waiting for quite some time. We'll go for a defensive mortar here, and then we'll get a Skelly King going on top of the bowler, so that way he doesn't end up getting the boulders on top of the mortar, which would be really, really bad, of course. So this isn't going super, super well so far, I have to say. I think he's played this pretty well so far, because I don't think that this is necessarily a hard matchup, but it can be a little tricky, I think, to get a mortar lock, and that's the main issue we're having at this point. But I think we can keep trying to, let's actually go in for a mortar like this, so we're actually getting some offense going while also defending the E-Giant simultaneously, and it forces an Evo Cage out of him, which I think is very good. So let's go in for a miner here, and then Goblin Gang as well, because he just used his Bar Barrel, and as you can see, Bomber just got taken out, Bowler gets forced out from him, and this is where things might change because he just had to overcommit quite a lot on defense, so it's a good opportunity for us. Skelly Drag's coming in. We'll go in for a bomber as well, and he's going to go for an E-Giant defensively. So we're just going to pressure with a mortar because I think here, oh nice, it locks on the tower. He thought it was going to lock on the E-Giant. That's going to be a really, really big mistake, I feel like, for him. We might be able to win off of that. He went for a lightning, but that doesn't help him because it turned the cannon cart into a cannon, which the E-Giant is going to go for, and now just like that, even though things were looking really bad, I think we might be able to get the win here. We can actually just go for a defensive mortar because at this point we've gotten so much damage. Even if he decides to lightning it, we're still going to have a lead. Evo Bomber gets some free damage on the tower over there. Evo Bomber, I swear, is just so broken. I think it might potentially be, some people consider it the best. Oh shoot, he just went in for one himself. Okay, good. I almost panicked a little bit there, but we're fine. Here we go. We're in our next game here against Mbot. We can just start with a bomber here, and he's going to go for Spear Gobs. I guess I'll go for a Skelly King. We did just spend quite a lot of elixir, so we might have to be a little cautious. And it looks like this guy's got a baity spam type of deck, so we'll see how the Cannoneer fares against it. Like I said though, we have a lot of cards that can deal with swarms very well, so I'm not too worried. He did just zap though, so he is going to get some damage. I didn't know he had a zap, so there was probably no way I could have expected that or reacted to that, but now we know at least, so we'll be ready next time around. And he's going to go for a Prince, so we'll just go for a defensive miner here, and that should be more than enough to make sure the Prince doesn't reach our tower. And he probably has a Gob Giant deck if I had to guess, because he has the Prince and baity cards, so it would make the most sense. So I think here we'll probably just... Oh, he's going to go Bats really aggressively. Let's just go Skelly King. This should be able to clean everything up because it has enough health to tank for everything. And yeah, as you can see, he even gives us the Well Played. Maybe I'll pop the ability here. Now, actually, it's probably not worth it because the Dark Prince deals some splash damage. So I think it would just be a waste of 2 Elixir. We'll just set up defense here for the Dark Prince. Let's go for a Mortar here, and then we'll go in for a Goblin Gang to make sure that the Dark Prince doesn't charge into our Mortar. And then Skelly Drag should be enough to clean everything up, if I had to guess, especially with the help of the Cannoneers on the back end. And yeah, that is going to be defended very well. So we took a little bit of damage at the start, but I feel a lot better with this situation now, especially because I know what he's using, and I think we can get some pretty good pushes going, especially in double Elixir, when we can support our Mortar pushes with like a Cannon Cart, a Skeleton King and everything, maybe even an Evo Bomber. Could be annoying for him to deal with, so we'll see what he wants to do for the Skelly King here. I don't think I'm going to use the ability once again. I just don't feel like it's worth it probably. He's going to go Dark Prince, so let's just go in for a defensive miner here. And if he goes in for a Gob Giant, I'll be ready with a Mortar. He's not going to, though, because he probably knew we would defend it without too much trouble, because that's what happened the first time around. Let's go for a Mortar here. We have the Evo Bomber coming in as well, so a nice little counter push. And he's going to go for a Prince, so I think this is a good time to go in for a Cannon Cart, and then we'll go for a Goblin Gang to make sure that Prince doesn't connect to the Mortar. He's going to zap, so this is pretty good for us. Mortar's on top of the tower. We can pop the Skelly King ability because he did just use his zap. He's probably going to have to arrow this, which then means our Skelly Drags could get some decent value. Oh, look at that. He just played the Goblin Gang right into the Skeleton King. Can we get the Cannon Cart to lock on the tower? We actually do. Cannon Cart locks on the tower. That is a massive amount of damage. And even though he did zap, damage has already been dealt, and it put him in an awkward cycle because he was forced to go for a defensive Gob Giant, which is obviously not what he wanted to have to do. He did it because he had no other choice, and by the time the Evo Gob Giant reached our tower, it was already dead. So perfect stuff over there for us. He's going to go in for Spear Goblins. I guess we can just go in for Skelly Drags, and I think we can play safe at this point. We've already dealt so much damage and have over 1,000 damage of a lead to where if we just defend, I think that's the best case scenario, and then in triple we can send in some miners and try to ensure we've dealt enough damage, but there's pretty much no rush at this point. We'll just go Skelly King here, and then we'll go ahead and pop the ability, get a Bomber going here to help clean everything up, and I think we should be okay as long as this Dark Prince dies. Perfect. We're actually going to go Mortar here. I think it's a really good counter push opportunity because we have the Cannon Cart. Even though I said I was going to be defensive, I think in this type of situation, it's definitely better to go in. So let's see. We'll get Skeleton Drags going here, as well as the Skeleton King. And this Evo Gob Giant should get stopped pretty easily. We'll pop the ability of the Skeleton King, so that way the Skeletons stop the Prince from charging and don't connect to the Skeleton King, which probably would have killed it. We'll just Cannon Cart here. And he's probably going to go Bats, so I want to get a Goblin Gang down here. Maybe he will just go Dark Prince, I don't know. No, he actually zaps. Wait, that Cannon Cart might be in range. It kind of got pushed. Wait, I think that will lock on his tower, actually. Oh my gosh, we got more damage. That's really clutch. We'll arrow this here, and then we'll go Skelly Drags. We pretty much just have to defend now that I got even more damage. Going back to what I said before, where defense is probably the smartest thing to do here. He just went arrows, so now he's not going to have anything for the Evo Bomber, which is just going to splash everything. Oh, I lied. He's got Evo Zap, so he actually will. But we already defended. So we'll just go in for an Evolved Mortar here to pressure. And he's going to go for the Evo Gob Giant to defend. And at this point, I feel like he's kind of in an awkward situation where he's not really able to break through. So I think we should be fine here. We'll just Skelly King. He is going to arrow. Maybe we'll get the ability off just to ensure we have enough defense down. Goblin Gang in the other lane. Just go Skelly Drags like this. We'll miner the tower just to ensure we keep our lead and get some more chip damage. But yeah, I think that this is going to be GG. We'll arrow the tower. And yeah, he gave up. So because both of those games, I guess, were fairly long, we'll do a 2-game video. That'll be it for the video. Hope you guys ended up enjoying it. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. You can use creator code BOSS to support me in any Supercell game. And let me know in the comments below what you guys think about the Cannon Cart buff. I actually think it's an above average card now, which is kind of hard to believe. But this is exactly, I feel like, what the game needs, giving a small buff to cards that have been bad for a while. And it's exactly what they need to get back into the meta. Thanks again. Until next time, guys.